Hi, good evening, everyone. This March 1st, 2022 meeting of the Lake Oswego City Council is now called to order. We will start with the roll. Ms. Linder.
Mayor Buck.
Here.
Councillor Nguyen is excused this evening. Councillors Burdick. Here. Rapp.
Here.
Mans. Here. And Boot.
Here.
And Winland.
Here.
Now, everyone, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Well, before we begin tonight, let's take a moment to reflect on events happening worldwide. Right before this meeting, headlines read of explosions in two major cities in Ukraine. Neighbors there are either fleeing for their lives, leaving the only homes they know, or they're putting themselves on the front lines to fight for their sovereign future. This invasion is already changing the lives of so many Ukrainians who strive only for the same safety and peace we want for ourselves. So as we convene tonight in a peaceful environment free from deadly conflict, may we come together recognizing our blessings and take a moment in solidarity with our Ukrainian neighbors overseas and their many relatives and former neighbors here in our city and the Pacific Northwest who are undoubtedly praying for their well-being. Please join us in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you, everyone. So this month in March, we give special recognition to two important parts of our community and broader society, and we honor them both in proclamations. The first is Women's History Month. We are thankful for women in our lives professionally and personally who contribute so much to our community and have shaped and continue to improve our city. So please see, we have a proclamation that will be posted on the City Council page of the city website. And you can join us this month by celebrating with Her Story, which features a host of women and their professional journeys, including Councilors Mance and Councilor Burdick, as well as Ms. Bennett, and other women who work every day in our city in a wide variety of roles. It's a really well-done feature, the first time the city's done that. The second is Disability Awareness Month. Our proclamation also posted on the website, and we're especially pleased this year to welcome and recognize Kelly Bird, who is back in the audience there, our new ADA coordinator. We appreciate her bringing forward this proclamation and the work that she's doing to ensure Lake Oswego is accessible to people, to all people, ages, and abilities. There is a great video introducing Kelly on the city's website, as well as an activity to help us all play an active role in creating a more accessible community. So check those things out during the month of March. And now we are going to move into public comment. And I understand that we have some folks who have registered to provide comment virtually via Zoom, and we are going to start with those folks, and Ms. Linder's going to let us know who's up.
We have Betsy Watsko, who will speak first, and then Diane.
Good evening, Ms. Watsko.
Good evening, Mayor Buck. Good afternoon, councilors and Ms. Bennett as well. My name is Betsy Wasco. I live at 320 Durham Street, and I'm here in my capacity as Old Town Neighborhood Association Chair to respectfully request that the city remove the pickleball courts in George Rogers Park and hopefully put them elsewhere. For many, the noise is hugely annoying. There is also the parking congestion. Together, that is diminishing the quality of life and quiet enjoyment for many residents. We in Old Town love George Rogers Park and all the sports and activity. Many of us bought our homes next to this park in part to be next to it. We wholeheartedly support enthusiastic park usage and this newly fledged sport. Yet there must be a balance. More park usage is not necessarily better and must be balanced against impacts to the neighborhood. The number of players went from a few per day to 24 playing continuously from early morning throughout early evening, with an equal number of bystanders waiting to play. Exhibitions have attracted 300 attendees. Pickleball is advertised and scheduled for the Portland metro area, and George Rogers Park is the second most active pickleball venue in the country. It is well known that pickleball courts placed too close to residences are problematic. Leaders within the pickleball community throughout North America have stated that courts that are expected to get lots of use should not be located close to homes, with one suggesting that the court should be 200 to 300 feet away from the closest residence. In August 2021, in response to neighborhood complaints, noise complaints, which began within 3 months of usage, West Lynn scrapped pickleball at Skyline Ridge Park. Those were only 2 courts, and those 2 courts, I understand, were to be converted back to a tennis court. The Old Town Neighborhood Association plan for George Rogers Park provides that use of the park facility should not interfere with normal residential uses in the adjacent neighborhood. Design or expansion of the park, which is a city facility serving all residents, and note, serving residents, all residents, not serving the Portland metro area, should be carried about with attention to the Old Town area, especially with regards to traffic, parking, and noise. This plan presciently recognized the need for sensitivity to the residences abutting the park. Also, insofar as the plan notes parks are for all city residents, it is noteworthy that most of the pickleballers on the playtime scheduler are non-Lake Oswego residents. I ask this council to be sensitive to the residents in Old Town who have been patiently suffering here. This isn't a not in my backyard or NIMBY issue. Please remember, everyone here chose to live here knowing we would be living next door to a park and perhaps even buying our property for the same reason. It's an issue of unreasonable intrusion of the right to quiet enjoyment. It's simply too much and in the wrong place. Please consider removing the pickleball courts from George Rogers Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wasco. I think we have some other people here tonight speaking on the same topic, so we'll let everyone speak, and I think we have a kind of a plan going forward. Thank you so much. Ms. Linder, who is next?
Diane Skurlock is next.
Diane. Ms. Skurlock, welcome.
Can you unmute, please?
Is she in the same room as Ms. Wasco?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Diane, please unmute.
In the lower left.
No, he's not.
Sorry about that.
That's
Can you hear me now?
Hi.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. My name is Diane Skurlock, as was said, and I live a few blocks from the pickleball courts. And this Google map that you hopefully can see shows the pickleball courts, the homes across the street, the adjacent playground, and if you look closely, the string of cars that are on Ladd Street that are primarily cars of pickleball players. Well, I'm having a little difficulty. I'll just go over here. My quality of life has been greatly impacted by the pickleball courts. I cannot go out in my side yard and read or have a glass of wine without the incessant popping noise. Those pop, 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 and it drives me inside within a few minutes. There's also a safety concern, which is increased due to the introduction of the pickleball courts. On occasion, I take my grandson to the playground and need to cross Ladd Street. Because of the parked cars, the narrow street, and the cars going in both directions, it's very difficult to see all around these cars and to be seen by the drivers and to get across the street safely. And actually, my grandson and I had a close incident last summer doing that. In the summer, there's a major issue with traffic in our neighborhood. On nice days, it almost rivals the Lake Oswego Festival of Arts traffic. More people in recent years are coming from Portland and other cities to George Rogers River for a variety of reasons. Parks and Recreation adding 2 activities, pickleball playing and also the rental contracts for kayaks and stand-up paddleboards, have really exacerbated the situation by attracting more people, primarily non-Lake Oswego residents. The addition of these activities, I feel, shows great insensitivity by Parks and Rec to the Old Town residents. The parking spots in George Rogers fill up in the early morning, and tons of cars spend the rest of the day circling the neighborhood trying to find a place to park. And this is very disturbing. I am asking for the prompt removal of the pickleball courts before the summer onslaught. Again, there's maybe 100 times more players per day than when they were the tennis courts. Most of the players are not from Lake Oswego. Parks and Recreation should have known that the placement of the pickleball courts was inappropriate because the courts are way too close to residences and noise is a major negative impact. There's been numerous articles and media reports about neighborhood complaints and lawsuits when courts are placed near residents. The use of the pickleball courts and the kayak rentals are not aligned with the goals of the Old Town Neighborhood Plan. Per what Betsy said, there was no outreach from Parks and Recreation to the neighbors before these significant additions and activities were made. So I hope you folks on the City Council will help with this request. I and many others have raised these issues to Parks and Recreation numerous times and have not received any satisfactory response or action. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gerlach. We appreciate you sharing this information with us.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ms. Linder. Who is
Diane,
next?
if you could please stop you're sharing your screen.
I will.
Thank you. Philip Sterling will be next.
Okay. Mr. Sterling.
Hello, everybody. Let me
Good evening.
do something here. Okay, very good. First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation for the opportunity of speaking to the council members today. This is a very important issue for me. Thank you so much. And thank you, Betsy, for setting this up. Before I begin, are you seeing me okay?
No, we only, no, we just see your name. Oh, there we go.
There we go. Good job.
Oh, we had to put your mask on, though. I'm just kidding.
Right.
Go ahead.
By way of introduction, my name is Philip Sterling. I live on Ladd Street, 119 Ladd Street. In the photograph that Diane presented, I'm directly across from the pickleball courts. I've probably received the brunt of the loud popping noise that Diane referred to. And that's why I'm talking today. This is very important for me. I live here with my family, and we truly appreciate the atmosphere, and we treasure this area so much. But I'd like to talk about why I'm convinced that the pickleball courts need to be decommissioned. This is very important. I believe they never should have been placed in a residential area. I'm directly impacted by this. Now, I'm just one person. I understand, and there's so many people that play pickleball. But this is important. This is affecting all of Ladd Street and the neighborhood, as Diane mentioned. And I'm frankly quite surprised that the Parks Department did not consult with the Neighborhood Association adequately on this important matter. So I agree again with what Betsy said. Our house is located, as I said, directly across from the 6 pickleball courts. And this used to be 2 tennis courts. I know because I used to play there all the time with Bruce. And so our avenue was taken away. However, the important thing here is that 2 tennis courts hold about 8 people, right? But 6 pickleball courts hold 24. And with the popularity of the sport, it's maybe another 24 are waiting. And on really nice days, popular days, I'm estimating roughly 40 or more people at a time are on those courts. So I can tell you that the noise is unbearable. So take it from me, that's a quote. Pickleball makes that really irritating, loud popping sound. Now the city did put a black fabric noise barrier on the fence, but in my view, this is an eyesore. And I've talked to the people next door to me, they agree. The noise barrier didn't really affect the sound at all. Also, we'd like to open our windows during the nice warm summer evenings that we all enjoy here. But this loud sound wakes us up very early in the morning, and it forces us to go and close the windows. try to go back to sleep. That's very difficult. So please imagine if you were in this situation. And this sound continues until the sun goes down. Every day during the summer months, almost all year round. So this has been extremely frustrating for us. We feel that our quality of life has been negatively impacted. And as Betsy mentioned, the 6 pickleball courts have created extra traffic throughout the neighborhood. We believe that the increased parking causes a problem of safety, especially for parents and relatives taking their children to the playground with no walkways except for the narrow Ladd Street because of all the cars parking, as you saw in the picture.
Thank you, Mr. Sterling. I'm sorry to cut you off at the end of the time, but we hear you. Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Ms. Linder.
Next, we have Bruce and Colleen Glabau.
Mr. and Ms. Glavau.
Okay, here I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. We see you both. Welcome.
Okay. Good evening, and thanks for this opportunity to speak to you concerning the pickleball courts at George Rogers Park. I'm Bruce Glabau, and I live at 71 Ladd Street with my wife, Colleen. We have lived there since 1990, and our children grew up playing in the park. I spent many years coaching boys and girls baseball and soccer teams, and remember fondly the games played in the park. I'm also an avid tennis player and kayaker and enjoy the many amenities the park offers, including the big events such as the art festival and the annual car show. I appreciate the efforts the city has made to accommodate the neighborhood for the commotion and traffic these events bring. I remember the many long meetings the city conducted with the neighborhood during the development of the park master plan. I also remember that the plan included converting Ladd Street to a limited use Green Street to lower the impact of the park on the neighborhood. What I do not remember is any discussion about adding a commercial kayak business to George Rogers Park, an endeavor that logically should be placed at Charles Brown Rowing Center at Roar Park. I also do not remember discussions about replacing the low-impact tennis courts with high-impact pickleball courts that increase traffic from a maximum of 8 cars to upwards of 50 that continually rotate through the neighborhood during the day. What is even more disturbing to these negative changes is that the city did not conduct any outreach to the neighborhood for each endeavor. In addition, it does not appear an effective traffic change evaluation and safety analysis was conducted. I can offer firsthand observation that during the months of May through October, the analysis is deficient and needs revision. I'd like to point out that the pickleball courts border a highly used youth playground on one side and a youth baseball field on the other. I'm a licensed civil engineer. I understand that my profession tilts towards safety in building roads and bridges and facilities. It is my professional opinion that a serious and dangerous traffic condition now exists due to the addition of both the kayak rentals and the pickleball courts. This increased traffic has overwhelmed the limited capacity of the George Rogers parking lot and created a serious hazard on the streets of Old Town. To conclude, I fully support OTNA's request to remove the high-impact pickleball courts and return them to the low-impact tennis courts. I recommend that a full traffic, safety, and park use analysis be conducted to determine ways to mitigate the unprecedented traffic condition in George Rogers Park and balance the park's use with a consideration to the livability of the Old Town neighborhood. I also recommend that the city consider using the wonderful LO Tennis Center facility as a model for a self-contained indoor pickleball facility with an appropriate amount of parking. As with the tennis center, user fees would cover most, if not all, of the operating cost of the pickleball facility. Thank you for your attention on this matter and listening to my concerns and the concerns of the Old Town Neighborhood Association. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Hi, I'm Colleen Glabau. I've been a resident there for 32 years, right across the street. I've seen many changes to the amenities of the park over the years. The playground has been redone twice while we've lived there since 1990. And I was a very active participant in Old Town Neighborhood Association and active in the protocol of the Lake Oswego Park development process. I recall a lot of community input at those times. I recall the same protocol was followed when improvements were made to the Memorial Garden furnace area down below, adding the wonderful historical information boards, the arbor, the walkways, the barbecues, and the stairway. There were hours of community input. This process allowed for many creative ideas to be shared. With these areas being improved, I witnessed, along with my family, a slow, steady increase of park use as local residents discovered what George Rogers Park has to offer. Fast forward to the summer that the Alder Creek Kayak and Paddleboard rental company suddenly appeared without any proper protocol or discussions through the Lake Oswego Park Department. And we always wondered why it didn't get put in the Charlie Brown Water Sports Facility. That summer, Old Town neighborhood streets were suddenly inundated with the cars of water users. And if that wasn't enough, again, without any proper protocol through LO City Parks Department, the work began to alter the low impact tennis courts into the high impact pickleball courts. Boy, the streets of Old Town are packed most days with pickleball users. Starting, I promise, they come well before 7. They're not supposed to start till 8. I threw that in. And if it's above 78 degrees, you can be sure that there's a whole bunch of paddle boarders waiting to get on that water. There are 61 parking spaces on Green Street on the south side of the ball fields. And as I've observed, 40 to 50 cars come on in the mornings, and the ebb and flow of the pickleball traffic rotation doesn't even touch the Green Street parking. They all utilize Ladd Street, moving north on Durham and on to Wilbur and Church and all those streets. It's insane before they really start overflowing into Green Street. And I've spoken to many playground users who say that they don't even enjoy coming to the playground as they once did due to safety issues. And I have spoken to pickleballers, and a lot of them are from other areas, like, it's shocking, Salem, Troutdale, and of course, Portland. And I thank you for your time, and let's get them out of there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. and Ms. Galbao. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Virtually. Thank you. Okay. Is that the end of the Zoom? Okay. Okay, next, in person, Ali Afghan. Welcome, Mr. Afghan.
Thank you.
Please.
Hi, my name is Ali Afghan, and I stand with Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian government. I'm also a board member of Old Town Neighborhood Association, but today I am here to talk with you as a resident who has been living in Lake Oswego since 1990. I live on Church Street, 2 streets north of the pickleball court. At summertime, when we hear the noise on Church Street, we're very joyful at first, until a couple of the neighbors spoke at the neighborhood association, and I decided to go next to the pickleball and behave like I am a homeowner there. And at that time, it wasn't joyful anymore. I invite you to go there and spend 20-30 minutes and sit there while the pickleball courts are being used. I have done that several times. Last time I did that was on February 19, 2022, on a cloudy, cold day. There were 4 courts being used. I stood across the street, I guess where Phil Stern lives, and the sound was like there are a bunch of construction people with 4 or 5 hammers, continuous tapping, and yelling at each other. The noise that I was hearing was not from construction, and is not like construction where there is a duration of the construction that after that, when construction is complete, you won't hear that noise anymore. This noise will be heard for as long as the pickleball courts are there. Imagine having this meeting with 4 or 5 hammers outside of these windows constantly tapping. I would imagine it would be interrupting for us. Now, I want you to imagine that you're sick, or imagine you work from home, or imagine you're a student or a teacher. And better yet, imagine you are a nurse or a frontliner who works during the night and has to get their rest during the day while the pickleballers are playing there, sounding like hammers for the whole duration of your rest. Having a pickleball court directly across from a residence area is a bad idea, proven by other cities who have moved them. We have taken their peace away from them, their wellness from them, and I ask you to correct the problem regardless of how that decision has been made. In closing, I ask you to imagine this. Imagine you are home and you are sick or healthy, you're working or vacationing, and or you're cooking or having dinner, but I ask you to add this environment to it.
Thank you, Mr. Askin. Thank you.
This was right across from the court balls next to Mr. Steering's house. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. Thank you. And next we have Carol Ockert. Ms. Ockert. Good evening.
Good evening. Council has recognized that alongside the writing of HB 2001 compliant land use code, there needs to be a fix to the city's seriously deficient demolition code. The draft code presented last night to Planning Commission brought forward the work of 6 staff members, the chair of the Middle Housing Committee, a respected and experienced developer, and myself. There was strong support voiced by some on the commission that clearly there was a problem. They could see these examples are not remodels, they are demolitions. The old, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it should be called a duck, was voiced by one of the planning commissioners. I was questioned by a commissioner about why this needed to be moved through with HB 2001, if I saw any connection. Emphatically yes is my response. Because when a demolition under the guise of remodel is allowed to keep one wall standing in a setback right up on a property line and build their new, higher impact, higher density middle housing too close to a neighboring single family residence, it's going to have a negative impact on everyone's livability. During our recent demolition focus group, the builder remarked how expensive it was to develop in Lake Oswego with the price of lots being so exorbitantly high and cutting into the profit margin. But he said that was about to change with HB 2001, that it would no longer be a 1-to-1 ratio, one old house coming down with one replacing it. Now it would be 1-to-2 or 1-to-3. Not my words, his. But not all commissioners were ready to move this demo fix forward last night. So today, I am notified that the demolition code fix is now in TBD, that the public notice staff was ready to mail out in anticipation of the planned April 11th public hearing has been pulled. Instead, there will be a discussion for a new timeline during your March 17th work session. Too late to stay the course. You can see by the illustrations before you where this will continue to go. For those who care about collecting the $15,000 demolition fee, you can understand now it's an easy code workaround. Does council really want to decouple the HB 2001 demo code process? Staff has new demo draft language ready to be vetted. Do individual planning commissioners get to make this call at a work session without even a vote of the commissioners taken? All I can pass along is what one commissioner said last night. Quote, "It's always been a joke in the real estate community that you could call it a remodel, one wall left standing." This is a council call. You can direct staff to send out the notice. Let's have the option to keep this on schedule. Let's keep the demo code fix on track, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ockert. Ms. Linder, is there any other public comment? No. Okay.
Mayor.
Well, we, aside from Ms. Ockert's comments on the pickleball comments we heard tonight, is it something that, as we've heard also, not just the comments tonight, but in emails, both from neighbors as well as from pickleball players, we know that people are passionate on both sides of this issue, something that perhaps the Parks Board could convene a discussion on so we can find a good way forward.
Yeah, I think the Parks Board actually heard the same information from Old Town at their last meeting, and Councilor Wendling, you can confirm or deny what I just said. And I think that my recommendation would be that you as a council ask the Park Board for a recommendation on this issue and that they discuss it at a meeting that's been properly noticed so that everybody in the community who might have an interest in the outcome of the decision can participate. Does that sound okay with everybody?
Sound good? Okay.
Okay, so, and I know Park staff's here tonight, and they will take it up at the next Parks Board meeting.
Okay.
All right?
Sounds great.
Thank you very
And
much.
thank you, everyone, for your comments tonight. Appreciate it. Okay. So our next item on the agenda is a public hearing. This is Resolution 22-08. This is revising fees and updating the 2022 master fees and charges schedule. Before we begin, we'll have Mr. Luce, City Attorney, read us the hearing procedures.
This is a legislative hearing, Your Honor, so any individual that wishes to speak may do so. They have a time limit of 3 minutes per person.
Okay, thank you so much. With that, we are going to start with the staff report. We have Jessica Numanalu with the planning manager joining us via Zoom. Ms. Numanalu, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Buck, and good evening to the councilors. I will have a short presentation on Resolution 2208. I think the fixes that are needed are pretty straightforward. This resolution would correct 2 errors and would also update the fee schedule to reflect the changes made to the affordable housing fee exemption that the council recently adopted in Ordinance 2885, which is effective as of today. The first error was found by staff, and it was a number was simply transposed when the fees were updated for 2022, and that is a code enforcement fee for a tree code violation. And there, 2 numbers are just transposed. Instead of being 104, it should be 140. The second item is an error that was made when 2 additional fire code fees were added. It inadvertently removed an existing fee, which was not intended. And so this resolution would restore that fee. And then finally, as I mentioned, we would just update the planning affordable housing fee exemption that's in the planning section of the fee code, as well as the system development charges of the fee code, in order to reflect the changes that were approved by Ordinance 2885 by the council recently. I do want to point out one issue, which is on page 6 of the 6.1 packet for this item. The first paragraph on page 6, the last sentence, "are met" should not have been deleted. That would make the sentence not be complete. So I would just put forward that correction to that fee schedule, which we can make in the final draft to keep those 2 words "are met." And with that, I don't have anything else for you tonight. Happy to answer questions. And I do believe Fire Marshal Zoutendijk is also present at the meeting and can answer questions if you have questions about the fire code fee.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Numanalu. All right, with that, we'll open the public testimony portion of this hearing. Do we have anyone to testify?
No, Mayor.
Anyone here? Okay, then we will close the hearing. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Numanalu or Fire Marshal? Any questions? No, okay, would someone like to make a motion on this resolution?
Move to adopt the 2022. No, it's 2008. Yeah, 2008. 2208.
Resolution 2208.
Resolution, move to adopt resolution 2208.
Second.
Okay. the
Counselor
second-
Manza, second.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0.
Thanks for the easy one, Jessica.
Thank you, Mrs. Lalo.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next we have a study session on the action plan and timeline from our community conversation on policing. As you all recall, during 2021, we held a community conversation on policing, which involved members of the community, members of city staff, members of the Lake Oswego Police Department, and from that came various themes, and from those themes, Chief Jorgensen and Captain Simon have put together an action plan, which they are now here to discuss with us. So welcome to you both.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Dale Jorgensen, and I am the Police Chief currently of Lake Oswego.
And good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Clayton Simon. I'm the captain for the Lake Oswego Police Department.
So thank you, Mayor, for kind of introducing why we're here. I just wanted to kind of go over really quickly to remind the viewers that might be joining us on social media why we're here. So we started this community conversation on policing about 2 years ago, 18 months ago. And this has been a long time coming. It's really interesting as we got to this point, as we started to do some of the action plan, that a lot of the recommendations that came out of the process were stuff that we were already working on. And that was very heartening to see that we were on the right track with what the community expected. So tonight, we're going to go over the action plan and the timeline. Those are two documents that I'll start with in just a moment. The one thing that is coming up that is part of the action plan is on April 5th in a study session. Captain Simon and myself will be back, and we're going to do our first council report that is actually part of the action plan to kind of go over our year-end numbers and to give you kind of an in-depth briefing of what we have accomplished over the last year as far as numbers. So one of the things that you asked for in the action plan. So all those questions we can certainly answer on April 5th when we come back. So this action plan was accumulated from many community meetings, council input, and our own department meetings. And then on September 28th, there was a staff report which was also included in your council packet that kind of summarized all those recommendations. And then after that September 28th meeting that was held, we had another conversation with the community in October, and a few more items were added to that recommendation. And from that, we developed an action plan. And so tonight, we're here to kind of show you, there was a total of 27 recommendations when we got all done with everything. And if as long as I do this right. So how we decided that we were gonna break this up to make it easy, for our edification, I guess, this is kind of our working document. Although it is a public document, it's kind of complicated and it kind of gets down into the weeds. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this, but I do want to point out a couple of things. So we took all 27 recommendations from the community and we broke them up into different themes. And you can see the first theme here is communication and reporting. There's police community engagement, there's training and development, and there's community bias recommendations. And we were able to take all those 27 recommendations and put them into one of those categories, which makes it much easier. And then with each theme, and we broke down the recommendations, so you can see on this very first one was to provide an annual report to council that includes these items. This is what I kind of referenced on the April 5th meeting that we'll come back, and that's one of the things that we'll do. So I'm happy to say that this goal will be accomplished on April 5th. So you can see the action that will be taking place. There's a timeline so that we can make sure we have a goal that we will get it accomplished by. Of course, you always have to have a measurement for that goal. And then the last thing is, the last two things is additional resources needed. So this would be if we needed additional money, additional staff time, an additional person to be doing that. And then the people that are responsible for making sure that this recommendation is done and presented. And you can see that it's the chief's office for this particular goal. So that's kind of how we broke down all the items that were recommended or on these themes. Again, I won't spend a lot of time on this because this is more of an internal document that we can go off of. But I will say that what is really nice, and it kind of goes with anything that you do with themes, is everything that we do as a police department, we can kind of put into one of these boxes. And it makes it really easy to kind of guide our direction as we start going down a certain road. We can put it into one of these boxes and see that we are accomplishing what we need to get done. And what's really helpful is that 2 years down the road, when we got most of these recommendations done, we can just refill the boxes with other things and just keep going. So it's very helpful that way. The document that we're really going to kind of live with is really this document, which is what we call our timeline. And I will tell you that this timeline is fairly aggressive. We did it that way because we wanted to make sure that we kept up with things. But one thing I would caution is because it is kind of aggressive, things come up in our world. And we still are a police department, and we still have other obligations that we do. So although this will be our guiding document, I will ask for a little patience as we start working through some of these, and I think we'll be able to kind of call out some of those items that might take a little bit longer, although we are aggressive on some of them. We also need to get some of our partners involved in this, because as you will see on the actual recommendations, we do have partners that we're partnering with, and some of those partners are like our DEI program manager that we're going to incorporate and to be 100% transparent. She hasn't seen much of this. We wanted to present it to you so that you saw it before we started branching out. We also are going to rely on our training division. We're also going to rely on our HR department. So there's a lot of external stakeholders that will be pouring into this timeline. So we broke it up by quarters. You can see that in the first quarter, we have plans to make sure we do a presentation to the council on the annual report and other police topics, which again is April 5th. We hope to have completion of our body-worn camera and to begin deployment, and then seek opportunities for leadership training specifically around gender and women in law enforcement. And the way we kind of broke up that timeline as we took these themes, we wanted to make sure we got the things that we felt were kind of the most important up front and first. And I will tell you that in the future, for example, the April 5th meeting will really, in the future, take place sometime in January or February. We had to delay it this year because of goal setting, because of this meeting. We couldn't present this until, couldn't present the year-end reports until we kind of presented this. So we will be coming back. One of the things that you asked for at the end, after the recommendations were made, was additional meetings with us. And so that's one of the things that we did. If you go down to quarter 3, you can see that the one goal in quarter 3 is to follow up department presentation to the council on annual report and other police topics. So our plan is sometime in September, October-ish, that we'll come back to the council. We'll share with you an update on our timeline and our action plan, and also give you whatever other information that you might want as time goes on, because we know that as the year goes on, there's other things that come up that you may be interested in. So that's kind of the first page of the action plan or the timeline. If you go to the second page, These are ongoing items that we'll be working on beyond. And again, this is where it's kind of exciting as we were putting this together to see that future goals we'll be able to just plug in here and just have a placeholder that we can do. And you can see that it's fairly aggressive for all those future goals. So as we start getting things marked off our quarter 1 through 4, then we'll take another goal out of here. That also means that we're also going to be working on some of these in addition to what's on the timeline. And I wanted to share with you a couple of those tonight, just so that you know where we're kind of heading in the near future. So as I mentioned, our body cameras are actually here. I know the last time I chatted with you, I said that they were delayed because of supply issues. Well, they came in the next day, actually. And so we have them. We're having our cars retrofitted down at our place that does all of our cars. And we hope to have those rolled out by the end of March, which would be right on time for our goal. We have some information systems being put into place. So prior to our action plan, we had started to talk, Captain Simon and I, about a little minor reorganization that we wanted to do in our department that we thought would be better to get information out. And that's one of the things that kind of fell right in place with the recommendations. So in January, we made that switch. I will say part of it was due to your vision and then allowing us to hire additional people. And so one of our sergeants, Sergeant Tom Harper, is now our admin sergeant. And he is also part of the city's communication team, which if you look on the goals or on the recommendations, that's one of the things that was written on there was that somebody from our department is part of the city's communication team to push out information. So Sergeant Harper will be updating our website. We have an action plan for him to do that, and also be pushing out information about the school resource officers. Once we have the April 5th meeting with you, he'll put that presentation in some form or fashion on our website so people will be able to easily access it and look at it. And then all of our numbers as we go through, we're going to pick out those numbers that we think people will be interested in, and we'll have those also on the website. So that will be Sergeant Harper's duty to kind of administer that, as well as he's also our public information officer, so he'll start pushing out more and more press releases. So your email boxes will be blown up by him, because one of the things we like to do is before we put out a press release is make sure you know about it, so that when you get a phone call, you have an idea of what it is. So that's why you'll start seeing an increase of emails from Sergeant Harper. Another thing that we are in the process of doing is training. One of the trainings that is coming up is the Red Door Project. It was an invitation that we sent out. Many of you have replied back and are going to join us on April 8th, I think is the date that we invited the council. That's going to be a department-wide training that we're going to be engaged in. We've also enrolled all of our female officers in a Women in Law Enforcement class that's happening in April. And this is a national training group that's made up of leaders in law enforcement who are female, who come in and kind of talk about the different stressors that happen and how it's a little bit different for females in what is a male-dominated profession right now. And then one of the things we're particularly proud of is our CIT training, which is our crisis intervention training. So again, thank you, because Amber, who is our behavioral health specialist, one of the things we've been able to do is bring all that training in-house now. And one of the things that we prided ourselves on prior to COVID was getting all of our officers as they were hired through crisis intervention training. And it's a 40-hour class, and we made it mandatory for all of our officers to go through it. COVID hit, and the county, well, just prior to COVID, the county stopped offering that class, and so we didn't have anybody that could do that. Once we hired Amber, we actually sent her to a class. She became certified, so now she's a certified trainer for CIT. She's partnering with her partner over in Oregon City, and together they're offering the class for our department for West Lynn, who contracts with us to provide that service, and also with Oregon City. So we have two trainings scheduled, one in June and one in December, and that will pretty much catch us up with everybody that we've hired over the last 2.5, 3 years that haven't had it. So we can once again say that all of our department members are CIT certified and trained. And that's just a few of the things. Again, there's many other things that we're working on to finish off the first quarter. But again, it was a great process to go through, and it was a great process to come out the other end and see many of the things that were talked about were things that we were already working on. And quite frankly, many of the things was at that, oh yeah, moment where we go, that would make us a little bit better department to do that. So we're grateful for the community and for the council for allowing us to go through this process.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Chief Captain. We really appreciate it. You know, I wanted to make a couple comments, and one is we hear a lot of good commitments, you know, coming from the department, very responsive to what we heard during the community process that preceded this. I think we, you know, as a council have a commitment as well to stay engaged and involved in. I know that council members have been, you know, participating on write-ons, getting to know the folks in the department, and of course, you know, everyone who works in the city is valuable. But we have one department where, you know, people's lives are on the line, and having those relationships, I know, means a lot. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think it means a lot to us, and so we appreciate that openness and that collaboration, and I hope it just continues and grows. You know, this is, like you said, I mean, this is a process that will evolve and continue to change as things go, but I think you've really set the department up for success, you know, in the time to come. And I just, you know, thank you specifically, and I know it takes the whole group, but, you know, at a time when there was so much divisiveness and people wanting to put, you know, police officers against everyone else, you know, the community. I mean, you really found a way in your leadership and through this process, and then Ms. Bennett too, to bring the community together, you know, instead around this topic. And we did, and we had really good engagement on it. And from that comes a really good product, which I think is gonna make this great department even stronger. So I just thank you for doing that at a really incredibly difficult time.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Councilor Mans.
Thank you. I too echo that, and this has been a very interesting and educational journey for me as a non-police person, and I can only imagine how it's been for the force, going through all the iterations of, well, everything that you've been through. I particularly am delighted to see that there is this emphasis for women in policing. That's extremely exciting to me. I'm just so thrilled with everything that you're doing, everything that you've done, and everything that you will do. So thank you, and thanks to the force, thank the whole group. So again, thanks.
Thank you.
Councilor Boo.
Yes. Thank you, Chief. I just wanted to, I will reserve my questions on many subjects for April, when you come and present. But I just wanted to, because I know you are retiring, and sometime it's very important that people recognize what people have done. I met you 3 or 4 years ago at Respond to Racism. You presented, they introduced me to you. I saw you, how you were being involved in the community. There was an incident with my children. You came to my office. And before you did that, someone I know who is very vocal talk about you, said, when something happened to her home, she wrote to you, you responded swiftly, and she was praising you, and that's when I recognized the great job you did, and I hope the person who will come after you will follow your footstep, because you did a wonderful work in our community, and for that I thank you. You made people feel at home, because, you know, I, as a father who had black children, when you came to me as the chief police, and I have to make it clear, I was not counselor at that time. I was a simple citizen, and the chief came to me. So I just want that we recognize those things, because it's always people criticize the police, but the good things you do, we have to recognize that, and it has to be shown in the public. The other thing I want to do is, like, I see that the documents are translated in Arabic, in Russian, in Chinese, but not in French. Come on, folks. No, yeah. I mean, no, if you need translator, I can do it. No, because there's French communities and they really want to read these reports. And, you know, I'm very proud that we are doing this. What countries do you see people translate all these things? It's a great work, but I would like to add French on this, because, you know, after all, we are the language of love, and, you know. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Duly noted. We'll make sure French is on there.
Councilor Wendland.
We just wanted to save a little bit of space, because when I looked at the packet, it was quite large for the agenda that we had, and I was glad to scroll through and read all the same report 6 times and all the languages I know. Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you as well. The one thing that I wanted to reiterate is that this is a product of a lot of work by your department, by the community, and what I'm really impressed with is that we were able to sit down as a community and have a dialogue and have a community conversation. And there's not too many communities out there that are able to do that. And I think what happened was we all joined together and figured out how can we make things better. And you nailed it. You hit a home run. And I love the colors. I love how the presentation is. I think it's concise. But what you said is it's going to be a living document, and I hope that we're able to find a new leader that I know that will follow in your footsteps, that will be able to take this and run with it. And I would hope that that's one of the community values that we put on the job description in the recruiting, that we get a Chief Jorgensen clone to. Which is impossible, but you never know what will come out of labs these days. I do say that it's difficult really to have a transition of leadership and have it move through smoothly. But I think you set up our department for the long term, and I really appreciate that. And I know, Captain Simon, you were part of this whole process as well, and you've involved all the officers in the dialogue and informing us with what's happening in the police department. And I just wanted to thank you. And I noticed one of the meetings that you were going to come back in September. Is that still correct? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, somebody
he
will.
said we. He didn't mean we. Oh, that's right. We don't start the hiring process until 2025. Is that what you said? That's right. Great. Perfect. So, but again, thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Burdick.
Well, I don't want to repeat necessarily what my colleagues have said, but I just want to thank you and the entire police force for getting behind this whole initiative, because we would not be where we are without that and without the engagement. And I really appreciate the acknowledgement that this is a living document and that it's going to continue to evolve, and we're going to continue to add to these categories. That just, I'm very grateful for that, and to have that that vision in place. So thank you for setting that. And I also appreciate the fact that you're willing to have an ambitious set of goals ahead of you. You know, you guys did not kind of shy away from anything. You're like, okay, we're going to do our best and we're going to just do everything we possibly can. So I really appreciate that element. And again, it just shows to the teamwork that you have helped create and the team and the leadership that you have. So thank you. And thank you, Captain Simon, as well, because it, you know, leadership trickles down. So that's just so important. And so yeah, if we could clone you, we'd really appreciate it. So good luck, Manager Bennett, for doing that. And yeah, just, but thank you. And I really am excited to see where this goes and how we continue to have improvements. And again, just the ability to just take it all on and say, we're just going to do it. And the open-mindedness that you have. So thank you to you and the entire force.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Raff. So everybody talks, so I assume I had to say something. The mayor looked at me like, really? Come on, we gotta move forward. Okay. So we've said enough about my brother and barbecue. Godspeed, you'll be fine. We will be fine, hopefully. I'm sure we will. But what I would like to say is, while we saw around the country a lot of cities retreating in the face of retreating their police departments and their funding away from protecting the communities and safety, what I'm really, really proud of is here, we decided to be courageous and move, and what do you call it, like step into it and move forward with it and meet it head on. And we were courageous, and it shows in the work that we've done, the work here, and the work that we're going to do ongoing. And I just want if there's the tens of people watching the YouTube, and anybody that watches it maybe going forward, I think you should all know that our city staff, our police department, our fire department, our city council, we will never abandon you. We will never stop protecting you. And when I say you, I mean every single person in our community. And I say all and everybody because that's what this reflects and the work that we've done reflects. And so we will always protect all the people in Lake Oswego with our great police department. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you both so much. Really appreciate you putting this together and being here this evening.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so next we have the consent agenda, which includes adopting our council goals for 2022, goals, initiatives, and agreements. And item 8.2, which awards a Parks temporary labor service contract. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0. Okay, information from council, if anyone has anything to say. Oh, Councilor Wendland.
I had the opportunity to go, I think we were all invited to the Portland Business Alliance meeting downtown with elected city officials, and it was put, basically the Portland Business Alliance shared the survey that they took about a scientific survey from Portland residents. And that was the survey that didn't come back with great news. In fact, it was as positive as we were in our response. It was the opposite. And it was interesting. There was there's counselors from Metro, Portland City Council, all the Multnomah County, Clackamas, Washington County commissioners, pretty much everybody was there along with all their aides. I'm still waiting for an aide, I guess. We probably won't have that, but they have aides. All these elected officials have aides that anyway. Bottom line is that it was an interesting meeting, and I think we have a lot to two of the biggest concerns that Portlanders have on their mind are safety and the homeless situation. And to Councilor Rapp's discussion about feeling safe. We felt very safe on our survey. And for us to border Portland, it's interesting how different a lot of their perception of their city and how it's working or it's not working and ours. And I just wanted to do a shout out to say, I'm very humbly thankful for all the work that we do in Lake Oswego to try to keep citizens engaged and satisfied. And I will say that there are some pretty big issues that Portland is going to have to address, and that makes us into the whole 3-county area with Metro that we're going to have to help address. So anything we can do to support our fellow comrades and that's probably not the right word to say tonight, our fellow elected officials, I would say we should do that. I think in the bigger picture of things, it reaffirms that we're doing things hopefully in the right direction, and hopefully we can help influence decisions to help the Portland metro area. But it was staggering to see some of the statistics. I'll try to send, if you haven't seen it, I'll send the presentation around. It's pretty alarming on some of the statistics that we need to do. One of them is housing. We're 35,000 units short in Portland, and the crux of most problems that we have in Portland and the metro area is that we have a lack of housing inventory, and so lack of housing inventory. So some of the projects that we're working on, I think, are going to help. But anyway, it was an interesting meeting and very concise, but very well received, I would say.
That's great.
So,
okay. Thank you. Councilor Mans.
Why, thank you. My report's a little bit different. Councilors Verdict, Wendland, and myself attended the ACC opening, which is, well, it was a
preview.
Pre-opening. It was a soft opening.
Exclusive.
It was fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous. Super exciting stuff. Apropos to that, as liaison to the Arts Council this year, there's discussion around what sort of art will be placed in the ACC and how that art is going to be used, whether it's from our regular collection or pieces that are going to be commissioned. So all of that was great. A couple of other Art Council things that I did not know about that I was super excited, and I hope I'm not taking away anyone's thunder, is the mural that is upcoming on the east side of the building. This is all in the early planning stages. You'll be hearing more about this, but I, as an art lover, was super excited to hear about that. One thing that was talked about at the last meeting was how, as the landscape grows up, we'll have a better idea of other things that might be done around the building to further advertise what's going on in the building via art or murals, et cetera, et cetera. One thing that I'll address this to Councilor Wendland and to Councilor Boop, because I know their enjoyment of school-age folks and their endeavors, is that the Arts Council will be working with OES to work on a sculpture project that will be placed here in Ello down the street from the fire department.
Why not? Yeah, why not Lake Ridge?
Okay.
I'm partial to Catlin ODS.
Lake Ridge, Lake Oswego.
Okay, at this point in time, without this being a decision that I personally made as a messenger, my friends, my colleagues, ma'am, it's by students. So let's take that portion of it if this works out, this could very well become a regular thing.
It's great.
I think that the reason why this particular program was chosen and this school of higher education was chosen was probably that they had something in place, would be my guess. How's that sound? But that'll be really exciting. It'll be down the street from the fire department and, yeah, main fire department. Guess what the primary material will be? Down the street from the fire department. Reused hoses.
Oh, hoses. Oh, that's cool.
So this
hoses.
is reused hoses. Super cool, super cool.
Okay.
So that wraps up my report, because if I say any more, y'all are just gonna hammer me, okay? Sorry.
I think we already did. We haven't had a last meeting. Council
Next.
verdict.
Next.
Well, Jackie took the Adult Community Center pre-tour away from me, but that was fabulous, really enjoyed it, very impressed with the facility. I also wanted to mention that Ella Reed's book was handed out, I believe, yesterday. They started doing that, and so events are gonna start rolling for that. So just look at the Hello and the library website for different events that will be going around that. And the book is How Much of These Hills is Gold? So that is our book. That's what I've got.
Did all of you get books? Okay, we'll get that taken care of.
Well, I think they're coming.
Yeah, they're coming here. I don't know about you, but I find it useful to have read the book before the events start. So we'll get you a book.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get you a book. I know they are coming to make a presentation to all y'all, I think on
I don't think it's till
April 5th.
Yeah, that's typically when they bring, but.
I know. In the past, though, the L.O. Reed's has been in February, and they've usually made the presentation in either December or January, so you got the book then. I think if they come in April, when I think they're scheduled to come, and you get the book then, you'll be behind. So we'll get we'll get you a copy of the book.
Well, after they go through OES, correct?
Yeah, we're gonna send them to either one of the private schools in the West Hill. I'm kidding. No. We'll get you a copy of the book because you'll love the book. It's quite a remarkable tale.
We interrupted you.
No, council verdict was finished.
Thank you.
I just have, the DEI Advisory Board met last night. They received a presentation from Mr. Olson in the Planning Department on HB 2001 and 2003, kind of update on the implementation, similar presentation to what we received at our last meeting. They had good questions on that. And they're also helping us to, in our board and commission recruitment. So they're advising on we have a video that's been in place for some years, so we're redoing the video this year, and they gave input on that and are working in general with how we present information on boards and commissions and explain to people, just kind of opening the door wider so people feel welcome to step up and volunteer. And then at the regional table at MPAC last meeting, we're talking about the 2023 update to the regional transportation plan, starting those conversations in terms of the values and the outcomes. But we received a presentation on emerging transportation trends, which was fairly interesting. Just a couple highlights. One is that transit use is way down and may take a very long time to recover, even as the service goes back to pre-pandemic levels. Another tidbit was that the streets, and we see information about pedestrian deaths due to vehicles, unsafe streets, and that driving under the influence is on the rise and the main factor leading to people dying on their bikes and when they're walking and whatnot. So good to know. So there's a lot of people more concerned in surveys about their health and safety when traveling than ever before. And so these are, concerning trends because they really stand in the way of meeting the region's climate equity and safety goals. But restoring that transit ridership is critical to keeping people on track. And it's not just access, physical access to transit, but there's so many people that feel now unsafe on transit. So, but then unsafe walking, unsafe doing all the things that we need to be doing to meet the climate goals. It's just not great. And then at the end of March 31st, Metro's food scrap collection program is going to go into effect. That was delayed due to COVID. Lake Oswego, as we know, does residential and commercial composting already, but other jurisdictions, we're only 1 of 6 doing a food waste program. So, and now everyone else is coming on board. All right, that's what I have.
I only have one thing. Included in your packet with your goals and initiatives was a draft of the preferred future statement that we put together after taking a look. I did invite your comments. Please do not reply all. Please email me directly. And I wrote down March 18th, if that works for everybody.
Okay.
And we'll put it in your packet for your consideration on April 5th.
Okay. Thank you.
It was hard. Megan knows that I spent many hours staring at a white piece of paper.
That's good.
But,
that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it's all right. We're going to make it better together.
It's
in your packet. It's only 60
it's with
words.
The goals.
It's
in
with the goals.
Report. The last page. It's in in the council report on the goals.
I'm gonna hand in my copy right now. It's gonna be good.
Yes, sir. Okay. Well, now we are going to go into executive session, and before we do so, Mr. Luce, will you read the legal parameters for us, please?
Will do. Thank you, Mayor. The Lake Oswego City Council will now meet under the authority of ORS 192.6602E to conduct deliberations with persons designated to negotiate real property transactions. F, consider records that are exempt by law from public inspection. And H, consult with attorney regarding legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. The public cannot view this portion of the meeting, but representatives from the media are welcome to attend. No final decisions will be made in an executive session. Any decisions made will be in an open meeting.
Okay, wonderful. This will conclude the broadcast portion. We are going to conduct the session here in chambers. So we will take a 5 or so minute recess to let them shut everything down, and we'll come back. Thank you and have a great night.